Hello, my beautiful angels. I hope everyone has been having a beautiful week. If you live in the Midwest, I'm sorry because this week has been cold and we are now officially heading into winter. So, I feel for us because this is the beginning of the beginning. This is only the beginning. Today's episode, I kind of wanted to go into about like divorce and kind of, its effects that it had on me a little bit deeper. I kind of talked about it a little bit, but I want to go more into it. So, as always, I kind of want to start off with some stats about divorce. I was actually really surprised about how high the divorce rate. Literally, when I search, the first thing I search is like stats about divorce, and it says 40 to 50%. I was floored. I'm still floored. 40 to 50% of married couples get divorced in the United States. What? That's insane to me. That number is so high. Like, that's actually awful. Like, that actually makes me really sad that it's that high. And I guess I kind of want to go into something else I was looking into was kind of the effects on children, because that's kind of mainly what I'm going to be talking about was like my parents' divorce and its like effect on me and how I kind of grew up, like my ideas of like relationships and stuff. So the effects that I found, which I'll link the site for that on kids, is poor performance in academics, loss of interest in social activity, difficult adapting to change, emotionally sensitive, anger, irritability, and feelings of guilt. And that's just some. That's just like a something I just wanted to write, like a small amount of what was actually can affect. Those are just like the main like ones I feel like they see in like most children, like in cases or whatever. So let's get into this. I guess where I'm going to start is its effects on me. So, like I've mentioned, my parents got divorced when I was in third grade. So, whatever, I can't remember. I think I was like 8 or 9. My dad got remarried within like a very small amount of time to a new woman. Yeah, no, I know. And I didn't see my mom, and it was really hard on me. And living with my dad, he's still like this too. He was very like, my dad's a very like to himself person. So I'm trying to say this in like the nicest way possible because I don't want to like obviously he's my dad, but he never really like let us like spend time with friends, and if we did, it was like a big deal. Like it was like, okay, you went somewhere 2 weekends ago, like blah blah blah. Like that's like how it was living with him. It was very like, you know, just like, so we were very closed off, and he would always be working, and like when he was home, he really didn't want to be bothered. And yeah, something that I found that kind of relates to all of this is that this quote that I found that I really, really, really love and I really want to share with you guys. Your love languages as an adult are often things that were lacked in childhood. So my love languages are, if you don't know what love languages are and you don't know what your love languages are, you can literally Google what is my love language and take a quiz and find out what your love languages are. My love language is words of affirmation and quality time. So kind of going into how this relates, quality time for sure. My parents worked all the time, and even when we did move in with my mom, which I will get into, she was always working, always, like not home a lot, and if she was dating somebody, she'd be with them a lot. So a lot of like not really quality time, and I spent the majority of time with my brother, and then when I lived with my mom, it was like my brother and my brother's friends, or like, I had like one like really close like girlfriend for a while, and then later on like another really really close girlfriend, and then but mainly it was just like me and my brother and his friends. So yeah, quality time is definitely one of my love languages. I'm a big person like in relationships. I just want to be with them like all the time. It means a lot to me like to be with people and spend time with people that I love. And I feel like it's more than just relationships. I feel like it's my friendships too. Like when I'm friends with somebody, like I want to be with them like all the time. Like so I have to find people that are like just as obsessed with wanting to spend time, or like quality time, like appreciating time with people. Like I feel like that's a huge love language of mine. And another love language is words of affirmation, which are words of love, words of care, words of whatever. I feel like that had a lot to do with how I talked about that my parents never really, like in my childhood, like built me up, never really like said the things that I needed to hear as a kid. And like that was just them. That was just the way that they are as people. And I've learned to recognize that now. Like, I went through a very long phase in my life where I was just like seeking love. And that's like how, I went into that about those relationships, like being in relationships where I felt that, I had to be in control of the love. And I feel like that all kind of stems back to that lack of love and that lack of showing love. Like I know they love me, but I felt like it really wasn't shown very much like throughout my childhood until, like I said, with my mom. Until I got older, she got a lot better with, like showing love and giving that affirmation of love, I guess, if that makes sense. I really wasn't pushed at all by either of my parents when I lived with either of them. So necessarily that kind of relates to not feeling like they believed in me in a way. I don't even know if my dad knows that I can even sing. And if he does, I don't know if he knows that that's something that I love to do and something that I hope, no, something that I will like pursue in the future when I can afford to like get better equipment and like microphones and stuff. And like I record myself singing all the time. I was in like choir competitions. I was in like solo ensembles. I did like talent shows. And like that's what I'm saying, like just very unaware of like my talents. So they never pushed me to do like things, like other kids' parents like would push them. Like even, I was in sports too, and I like just never felt that like push, that drive to like keep going and keep that I was good enough. It just always felt like I was just trying to impress him like all the time. And I just never felt good enough. And I'm 26 years old and I still feel like I'm doing that with him. And I just think that's just him and his personality. Maybe, I don't know. I don't want to make excuses because it sucks and we definitely have a lot of disagreements. And a lot of it stems back into just like me just not feeling like I'm like nothing that I ever do is good enough for him. And that's just kind of, it all goes back to that. And it makes such a difference like that's something that I am going to be very sure of and very consciously aware that I do with my children is build them up, is recognize their talents, push them. Like I don't mean like push them in a negative way. I just mean like recognizing that they are good at something and giving them the confidence in themselves to pursue it. Like I was 8 years old writing an album. I was in talent. Like I wish I would have had parents that pushed me because I just kind of, I mean, I know like everything happens the way it's supposed to and whatever, but I just kind of wonder if I was like with different parents, like where I would be now. Like I wonder if I would be in the music industry, if that's like what my path would have brought me to, if I had parents that saw what I was capable of at such a young age and where I could have been now. But I'm thankful and grateful for where I am and all my experiences. And I know that everything happens for a reason, so it's okay. But yeah, I always do wonder sometimes, like what could have been that. And that's just something that I've mentally made a note of, that I want to do differently when I have children. So I guess the effects that it had on me, I specifically remember like when everything was happening, like the separation was first. And I just remember I don't know how to say this without sounding like really sad. When I was younger, I went to a Lutheran school and I had like maybe 8 or 9 people. I can't, 8 or 9, 10 people in my grade. So that's not a lot of options when it comes to friends. And I just remember like never feeling like I fit in anywhere. Like there were 2 girls who were like best friends, and then there were these 3 girls who were like best friends, and I was just always kind of like the outsider to the best friendship. Like I was just like friends with them, but I wasn't like what their friendships were, I was just kind of like, I always felt like the outsider, and like I was never like the number one person for like anybody. And that's just like something I specifically remember like growing up. And then when I was going through that like shit with my parents, I wouldn't even try. Like I just stopped caring to even try to be friends with people. And at recess, like I would just be by myself, and like there was like a period of time where my best friend was literally the wall. Like I remember I used to like hit the ball, like bounce it with the wall, because that was, yeah, like that's like, so definitely how I said before, like the loss of interest in like social activity, for sure. Like that's for sure happened with me. And then, so fast forward a few years, my dad gets remarried, or not a few years, it was like less than a year or so. He got remarried, and then he got offered a promotion to a new job in in his like a higher up, and he had the choice to move to Ohio or Florida. And I don't know if this is everywhere or this is just Wisconsin or just like some states, but in the state of Wisconsin, if your parents are divorced and one parent has like sole custody and another parent has like joint custody or like somewhat of a custody, the parent who has sole custody cannot take the children out of the state unless the other parent agrees. Okay, are you with me? So long story short, my mom said hell no to us leaving the state because I think she thought that she was never going to see us again, which I don't blame her. My dad was pretty vindictive to her in the divorce, and there's just, like I said, a lot of things that I don't know too, so she said no. So that was my going into my 8th grade year. So it was like the summer after 7th grade going into my 8th grade year. So I finished the school year, and then 8th grade I moved with my mom, and my brother went too, and we moved into her boyfriend's house because she was dating somebody at the time, and we moved into his house, and he was an alcoholic and pretty abusive to my mom. He did a really good job at not doing it in front of us, there were a few times I would like hear them, but I never physically saw him do anything to her. But obviously I believe her that he did, but I never like physically saw it. So I guess like he did like a decent job at like keeping that around us. And they would always like fight about us. And, I was going through that like preteen, teenager phase where I just like hated the world, and I was, getting used to a new school and friends, and, not wanting to deal with authority, and made a MySpace behind my mom's back, like made a Facebook, like those kind of like the dumb things, like nothing like serious or like really bad, but like the little things, to be rebellious without actually being like super rebellious. And they just like fought about us all the time. And we moved to a different apartment. And then, yeah. And I mean, it was kind of the same thing at this school, was that feeling of being like someone's like number one friend, because everybody had gone to school with each other since like elementary school, and I was like the new kid that just like came in and like, you know, 8th grade. Like that's pretty, I don't want to say old, but kind of, like that's pretty like an older age, especially being with people who've known each other since elementary school. So it was just kind of always like trying to fit in somewhere and trying to find like my people and whatnot. And then we moved to Oconomowoc because my mom was working there at the time, and she was having some issues with her ex-boyfriend, and basically she told me she didn't feel safe living there anymore. And I don't know if I don't believe her. I just think she wanted to start over more than anything. And I had a really, really hard time with that because obviously I went to my first school from kindergarten until 7th grade, and now I'm at a new school from from 8th grade to freshman year, and now she wants to move us again. Like I'm about to be a sophomore, like transferring as a sophomore to a high school that's like 3 times bigger than where I was. I was terrified, and and that's like kind of like back to another point of the difficulty adapting to change. And I feel like, I guess like it's a trait of being a Taurus, which is my sign. That's like my main, like my sun sign. I think I also have it in one of my other signs too. I can't remember on the top of my head, but definitely my sun sign. So I know Tauruses have a lot of like, it's hard for them to like, they don't like change. Like our big thing is like stability. It's like a big thing for us. And so I was having a really hard time with it. And so we moved to Oconomowoc, which was 3 times the size of the school I was at. Like I probably had like 40 kids in my grade at the other school, which was in Hughesford. And then moving to Oconomowoc, I had like 300. So yeah, it was like triple the size pretty much. And transferring like really late, like we did like really late enrollment. So a lot of my classes were with grade below me, which is my brother's grade. So I made like a lot of my friends in that grade, and like my brother he still is like my best friend. So I would hang out with him and his friends all the time pretty much. And then like this one girl who we were both friends with, like I became really, really close with her or whatever. And yeah, and then so we get into, living there in Oconomowoc, and I think my junior year was when my mom met her husband now. Yes, she's remarried now. She got remarried last year because last year was 2019. I literally feel like 2019 was forever ago. Like it doesn't feel like it was only last year. I just feel like this year has been so long and so dragging, and just such a shit show that 2019 feels like a lifetime ago when things were actually like normal. So yeah, she met him when I think I was a junior. I can't remember for sure, but I think I was a junior, or it was like the end of my sophomore year, like something like that. And he lived in his house where he lives now, which is in West Allis. So she would be gone because she would bartend Thursday nights at my grandma's, which is like 10 minutes from where he lives. So from Thursday till about Monday, she would be gone to be with him for like the weekends or whatever. And basically we would just have friends over all the time, which was such a different environment from living with my dad, who like never really let us like have friends. And I feel like that impacted like my friendships and why I never like grew close to people, because I could never spend time with people outside of, you know, school or sports. And like that was pretty much like it. And if I did have a sleepover, it was like a big deal, like I said. But with my mom, it was like completely like opposite. Like my mom let us, I don't want to say like do whatever we want, because like we still had to tell her like where we were, what time we were coming home, and like whatnot. But like pretty much like way more freedom, and like we were actually able to like have like, I would say like physically have friends, because like yeah, like having friends, like your school friends, but if you don't have a relationship like outside of school, like do you even have, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so we actually had like real friends, you know, where it was like outside of school. And yeah, and then when I graduated, we moved to Milwaukee to live with him. And it was kind of like a power struggle with him. Like it was like my dad was not there. My dad had not really been there. My dad had lived in Florida. Like we had to go see him like every once in a while, but once we turned 18, we really didn't have to go see him anymore. Like when we were younger, we had to like go down there for like certain holidays and like spend like a certain amount of time. So I remember when I was in high school, like we like for spring break we would go down there, and like over the summer like we would spend like a month down there with him. And he would like always be working, and like I mean we would do things like every now and then, but it just wasn't like what you like, oh, you think, oh my god, spending a month in Florida, like it wasn't what you would like think it should be. And then he started having children with his like wife, and it's just like I physically remember just feeling so replaced and so like, oh, I wasn't good enough. So he left and made a whole new family. That's kind of like how I've always felt. And I don't know if necessarily anything will change that, you know? Yeah. So how it kind of affects like my relationships today is I'm definitely very picky. I feel like when I was younger, I would like people and date people, but I feel like now it takes like a lot for me to like really like somebody and really give the time of day to people, because I don't ever want to get divorced. Like I want to know and be that like I don't want to date or bring people into my life and meet my family like if it's not going to be something that's forever. Because I dated somebody for a very long time that I thought I was going to marry, and now looking back, I'm like, I feel like I was so blinded by love. And like, I don't mean that in a bad way. Like, I definitely loved him, but we were not meant to be together long term. Like, there was just a lot of issues, and I wasn't ready for a real relationship, and I don't think he was necessarily either. And we just didn't know how to was just very like fighting all the time. I was very like, I had a lot of anxiety. I was always worried like he was going to do something. Like I needed to be with him like every second, and I literally didn't trust him at all. Like it was so toxic, and I feel a lot of remorse, and I feel really bad for the way like I acted during that relationship, but look at it as a learning lesson because I never want to be that person in a relationship. And I feel like that's why I'm so picky, because I don't want to just date somebody to date them. Like, I want to know I can trust you. I want to know that, like, you're in it. Like, I want to, and I feel like our age group is so different now than when our parents were our age or even younger. Like, my mom and dad got married. My mom was 21 and my dad was 27, I think, because I think they're 6 years apart. And I'm 26 and single right now, and it doesn't even bother me. Like, I know the effect that like my parents like, and like what it did to me as a child, and like what it has done, like, you know, why I am the way I am now and why I am the way in relationships. And like my dad was very controlling of my mom, and she was to the point where she was just so unhappy because he never let her do anything like without him. And that just scares me. So whenever I get into situations or like situationships or whatever you want to call them, where I start to, if that starts to happen, I freak out and I just like, bye. Like, absolutely not. Like, it's one thing, like, but like when it gets to the point where like you're telling me that I can't do something, that's where I'm going to say hell no. I guess my biggest advice and kind of what don't just be with somebody because you want to be with somebody, be with somebody because like you feel in your heart that that person is your forever. And like, don't marry people just to be married because you're at a certain age and you feel like you should be married. Honestly, forget these stupid age standards. I feel like it's so different, and I hate when like our parents will like say stuff like oh, you're 26 and single, and like they make me give like a hard time about it. And it's so dumb because this timeline bullshit just pisses me off. And like I have friends who have like timelines, and they're like, I need to be married by this age, I want to have children by this age. And it's just like, you are setting yourself up for disappointment. Like, I'm sorry, I mean that in the nicest way possible, but if you put a timeline on things, more than likely it's not gonna pan out the way you think, because the universe has a plan for all of us. And even if it's like shitty and things go really bad for a really long time before you get to a good place in your life, it's all a plan and it's all for a reason. And it puts us in situations that challenge us, that, puts us in a situation that grow us as people, and that, puts us through hardships and good things, all to get you to who the person that you're supposed to be, And I have to believe that even though my experience with my parents was super traumatic, and that it really has affected me even as an adult, that it was all for a reason, And it made me the person that I am today. And it made me, even though my parents are so not the typical like American like loving, I don't know, I see other people's parents and their relationship that they have with their parents, specifically their dads, and it, for a long time, it used to really, really break my heart and make me really sad seeing that, because I don't have that relationship with my dad and I never will. But that's okay because my mom is remarried, like I said, and my stepdad and even my mom, like as we got older, my mom got a lot better at being more affectionate, and she definitely started to overcompensate for my dad's lack of emotional availability, I guess, if you want to say. So she definitely would like overcompensate for him, and my stepdad is very loving, and he loves me and my brother so much, even if he is very old school and doesn't necessarily like show it in a way where we understand. Like, he cares about us in a different way than, I've ever had before. And I don't even like know, like, I definitely have like I feel way more comfortable like being around my stepdad than I do my dad. Like, it's just like eggshells kind of with my dad. And with my stepdad, it's just kind of like easy, And that's what I mean. Like, that was all for a reason, like to bring me, even though I'm older and stuff, it was to bring me, my mom to him. And it ended up being pretty dope, And like, I don't know, I feel like it taught me to be an independent woman. Like, it taught me to never depend on a man, which is probably has a lot to do with why I'm like, I'm not that girl that's like always in relationships. Like, I know there's so many girls that like I'm not friends with, but like I know, like, because Whitewater is like not that big of a school, but like they always have a boyfriend. Like, it's one boy to the next boy, the next boy, the next boy, the next one. It's just like, I'm like, I can't even like get myself to like somebody or be like, it's so it's so hard for me to even like somebody. It takes like I have to be like magnetically like drawn to you for me to be like you. It's always like people that like I've known for a while. It's never just like, I never feel like magnetically drawn to somebody who just like walks up to me into a bar. Like, I'm definitely like one of those people like gets to know people first, and then like I can feel comfortable with them. Like, I've never been on a dating app. I've never like I would say 85% of the time will not no 95% of the time will not respond to a DM or respond to anything. Like, I'm just very like closed off. Like, it takes a lot for me to like let somebody in, I guess, in a weird way. And I just feel like that has a lot to do with being independent and like knowing what I want, and knowing that like I'm, like, I'm not just a girl who's dating to date. Like, I want to date to be serious. I want to date to, I don't want to like, why waste time? Why waste time in a relationship with somebody that you feel is not your forever, when you could be working on yourself and getting yourself to the best version of yourself for when that, when that person does come, that is your forever. Like, you're going to be the best version. Like, I wasn't the best version of myself in any of my relationships, and I have spent so much time like growing and focusing on myself, and like I feel like I'm the best version of myself. So, and when I'm that like best, like I'm at such a good best of myself, when I feel like I'm at the best, that's when I feel like it's gonna happen. And I'm one of those people that like, I don't want to meet somebody on a dating app or whatever. Like, I want it to be like, I'm a romantic, so I want it to be like a movie scene, like I want it to be like love that sets my soul on fire, and I feel like that all stems back to seeing how my parents were and seeing their marriage fall apart. My dad's in a relationship right now, so he couldn't control my mom. Like, there was just like, she would not, like, she was like, F you, like, no, you're not going to control me. And she was very independent and very, and that's why it didn't work out, because it was just like a fight of power. And and now he is married to somebody who was just very. I love my stepmom. Do not get me wrong. She is an angel on this earth. She's one of the nicest human beings. But my dad walks all over her. And if she does stick up for herself, I rarely see it. It might be behind the scenes, and I hope she does, because my dad can be a jerk, and my dad can be a jerk to my little sisters, and a jerk to her, and a jerk to everybody. He's just a jerk. Like, he's just not. And I feel for her because I worry that she thinks that that's the best it's going to get for her, and I feel like she just, like, you know, I'm just assuming things, but yeah, and it's just so, like, she's a complete 180 of my mom. And I feel like the reason why, like, my dad and I have a lot of issues is because I'm a lot like my mom. Like, we have a lot of similar personality traits, and I feel like he sees so much of her in me that he just, like, I know he doesn't hate me, but it feels like he does sometimes. And it's just kind of taking a step back and, like, reminding yourself that, that's not that they hate you. They just, like, he just lacks that emotional capability of, like, showing love, which sucks. Like, that sucks when that type of person, like, ends up being your parent, but then it teaches you a lesson that that's not what you want. Like, you don't, like, I could never marry somebody who does not show affection. And that's, like, all relates back to the words of affirmation and the quality time, like, of my love languages, and why that's so important to me, and why I'm so picky. And be picky. Don't settle. Don't get in a marriage or relationship or move in with somebody, or, because you have a stupid timeline and you think that you should be serious with somebody. Like, I'm sorry, but it doesn't have to be that way, So, this is kind of going to be more, this was kind of like a ranty one, so I apologize. It's not like a normal episode, but the fighting and the going through the new relationships with my parents' new relationships, and the marriages, and kind of dealing with all of that, like, it's a lot. And I moved around a lot because of my parents, which I feel like definitely has an impact on why I have such a hard time dealing with change, and why it's really, really hard for me, like, with change, and why, and there's just a lot of, like, the things that I went through, like, growing up and as a kid, has shaped who I am as a person and my personality, and why I am the way I am, and why I am the way I am with relationships. And it all is for a reason. It doesn't have to be a negative thing, is kind of where I want to go with this. Like, just because you were raised around a bad relationship and raised, to think, like, I thought very negatively of marriage for a very, very, very long time in my life, and I didn't even know if I ever, like, would want to get married because I was so afraid of it. And I'm kind of glad I got over that, because I definitely, like, one day know that that's something that I do want, and that's, because then I see, like, good examples of it. Like, I see my friends' parents who have good relationships, or my grandpa who is in a very loving relationship with my step grandma, or just, like, my great uncle and aunt. They're in a very, very loving relationship, or, like, some of my cousins, and that makes me, like, believe in love again. And I feel like because of my traumatic experiences with, like, relationships and love, like, has made me such a romantic, and made me such, like, that hope that true love, like, that twin flame, that soulmate, that one person, like, is out there, and that the universe will bring you to them when you are the highest version of yourself, and that's, like, what it will take. So all in all, don't, if you went through a really traumatic like experience with your parents and maybe they are divorced or they aren't, or they just like are very toxic, so they're not divorced but they're very toxic and you kind of grew up around that, don't let that define you. Let it be a lesson to you for what you don't want in the future. That's kind of my biggest advice through all this, is to not let it affect you negatively, to let it be, to think of it as like, okay, like I don't want that. Like, okay, I don't want to get married and divorced. Like, I want to be picky. I would rather be picky and not get married until whatever age, knowing that that's going to be who I'm going to be with the rest of my life, than just rush into something and get married just to be married, because most 26-year-olds are married and then end up divorced or end up having children and then get divorced and then put my children through the exact same thing. I would rather be picky. Do not settle. So let's review the points here. Don't let it define you. Think of it as a positive thing and a negative instead of negative, and look at it as what you don't want, as a lesson, what you don't want in your future. And don't settle. Please do not settle because of some dumb timeline. Like, if you're going to marry because you know deep down in your soul that that person is your person. That's like all I gotta say. And like, I know certain people like have an advantage because other people have a better gut instinct than most people do. Like, I have a crazy gut instinct. Like, I am always right. I sometimes get blinded, but majority of the time I'm always right, unfortunately, and it's really annoying. So yeah, I just wanted to say that if you're ever dealing with some issues with your parents, or maybe your parents are getting divorced like as you're older, because a lot of parents will like stay together and then once their kids are like moved out and out of the house, is that's when they kind of do it. And that's even harder being older, I think, than younger, because that's what I knew as like my parents is like a negative thing. Like, I don't physically, like, I was too young to remember them being happy and in a good place in their marriage. So I feel like, when you're older, it's even harder because you have way more memories with them together than necessarily when you're younger. So if you're, going through a hard time with your parents and say they're getting divorced, or just, fighting in general and kind of separating yourself from it, I would love to be somebody, that you can reach out to, feel comfortable talking to about it. Maybe you have some deep-rooted childhood shit that you need to deal with. Like, I would love to be able to help you with that. I do a lot of reading and stuff on kind of like healing your inner child. That's kind of like the main thing with like meditating and, looking into that, is like healing your inner child wounds. And like, to be the best version of yourself, you have to heal that old trauma within yourself, and so if you are noticing patterns in your relationships or certain things in life, and you listen to this and think, oh my God, like maybe this all stems back to like my parents, please reach out to me. I'd love to talk to you about it. I'd love to help you through it. I would love to give you some advice on like things I do to like help heal my inner child and stuff like that. I would love to be that, like, for somebody. So like, please don't hesitate to reach out. If you like this video, please leave a comment, subscribe to my channel, subscribe to the podcast if you're, listening. If you're on Apple Music, please rate this 5 stars for me. And yeah, thank you for taking the time out of your day to listen to this. And it means so much more to me than you can ever understand. I'm so grateful for you all. You guys make this worth it, the feedback that I get from this is incredible, and it just motivates me, and I love it. So thank you. And please, like, if you really, really like something, reach out, leave a comment, subscribe, rate this podcast. You can leave comments on Apple Music too, or Apple Podcasts. I'm sorry. Yeah. Thank you again for taking the time out of your day to listen. I love you all so much. You guys are my angels, and I hope you have a beautiful week, and I will see you next week. Love you guys.